Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to TechnoBabble podcast number 0, which is our first podcast of the list. Joining us on the call are Ashwin, Hitesh, Amit, and Anshul. And of course, myself, Deepak. So, Google announced their new whiz-bang product, Google Wave, and that seems to be the topic of interest for everyone today. So, why don't we start with that? Why don't I ask everyone to give a short, two verbs and a preposition kind of 1 minute, one sentence reaction to Google Wave first? Ashwin, do you want to go first?
Sure, no problem. Actually, I'd seen the Google Wave, all the hype behind it, and it looked very noisy, confusing to me. But today morning, I just saw the demo video. It's just awesome. It's just awesome, period.
Yeah, it sure looks awesome. Hitesh?
Hi, looked at Wave. To me, it's good, but it's not. If email was developed today, it's email. If Google developed it today, it's a mashup of their docs with the inline chatting and other technologies. So it's not totally revolutionary. It's just well integrated.
Amit?
Actually, I did not get a chance to look at the video, although I looked at the brief overview of what is going on in Google Wave, and it seems interesting, although I am not very sure entirely how useful it will be, because it seems to be like too much information going on everywhere, all over the place. So unless they can like really manage the whole thing, I don't know.
Amit, actually, even I felt the same thing when I saw the screenshots and things like that. I don't know how they're going to manage this overhead of information, but to me, it looks like a good solution looking towards the future for email, and we have all these uh, other inputs that we're getting every day, like Twitter and notifications through Facebook and friend feed and all that. It looks like a good way to collaborate all of them together, but I don't know. I really don't know how it's going to pan out until we can get our hands on the actual product.
Yeah, I think that's actually a good way to think about it because I mean right now we have information overload, but all our information comes in different silos. So if you at least get a handle on organizing all your information, and Wave looks like a good way to help us with that. At least it would help with the overload factor.
So I see the problem as being there's nothing wrong with the product. The product is super cool and awesome, but it's like saying, yeah, Facebook is super cool and awesome, but the point is how will you use it, right? And what I see, the good thing about Wave is that it can be, what I really like about Wave as opposed to all the other social mashups is that you can restrict your circle, so to speak. So I can have a Wave with only people I know are like not only just with people I know, but people with I know on a specific topic. So that is the best thing about it in my view, that I don't have to have this list of friends, and I get to see each and everything that they're doing, so to speak. So if we want to, let's say, have this podcast and we want to discuss this podcast, we have a Wave just for that, and we allow in people whom we know will not, do the equivalent of poking and throwing sheep and stuff like that. So that way it's pretty good, but yeah, it is up to how people use it, and there is a very big potential for overload of information given all the stuff that happens. I mean, all the stuff that's possible inside it, images, videos, and what all. But yeah, I think that is a really good thing to come up, because what's possible with Wave is not possible right now in any other medium.
Okay, I think that's good,
Okay,
but the most impressive feature for me from Wave was obviously how it's bringing together all these different kinds of textual and photographic or video communication that we are currently doing. Like in Gmail, I can just do. I mean, it's just plain old email. I mean, it has a nice interface, but it is still email. And then I have this IM client where I'm doing all this very short conversations with people, and there again I have Twitter where there's again this very short conversation, and with this product I see that there's a way to bring all of that together. I mean, all those three are different mediums. Like in Twitter, I can like tweet from maybe the cell phone and things like that. But I see that in Wave, it's all going to come together. I mean, I don't know how the final product will be, but I think that's a very nice idea that they've taken and have implemented it.
But isn't it the case that in every medium we have a kind of way of communicating, so to say, about it? Like the way I will communicate the same message in an email will be different the way I will communicate it over an IM client or something else. And so if we have all these things at the same place, then I don't know, it's good to have it as a repository, but if I want to look for something, and it will be really confusing for me to look at the different kinds of things
Okay, Amit,
together.
let's take the example of email and IM. In email, it's like,
Yeah.
I sit down, write a reply, and I send it, and boom, it goes to the other end, and they can open it, and then they see it, and then they reply back. That's essentially how email works.
Yeah.
And how IM is different is it's
Yes.
all those short messages, it's instant. Both the people have to be online at the same time, and type something here, the other person can see the notification, and I type a short sentence, it's out there, and the person responds immediately, and so on. At least in Wave, I see that at least these two are being integrated. You can see it in the demo that you can have your long email conversations where you think out things and you write a long reply, and you can also have these very small replies or very small messages that we do using instant messengers.
No, I agree with that. I'm sorry. Anshul, go on.
Okay, I have a different take on that. I don't think it's going to replace IM and email. So, for example, IM it's very clear that it's certainly not replacing IM. You can do IM like things in the sense that it is instant. But for example, when I'm on IM with 5 different people at the same time, right? And I'm chatting to them in different windows or maybe different tabs. That won't really be possible in Google Wave. Yes, you can work around that, but it's essentially something that comes into your inbox, and you have to sort of, as from what I saw of the interface, you have to click on it, you have to open it in a window from a list, and so on. So I don't think it will really replace IM, and I think very frankly that was one part of Wave that I didn't like, the fact that you can have these short conversations. I mean, it's good that it's there, but I mean, I would still, rather than clicking on one link and saying reply. So for example, let's say I'm editing a document, right? And I want to talk about, okay, let's go for a movie, right? I mean, I want to do that. That's what instant messaging is about. Even though you're working on a project, you want to talk about something else. That really doesn't have a place in a wave, right? In the same wave, because a wave should be about something. It should have a certain focus. So you can start a new wave, but that's kind of an overkill if you just want to ask somebody to go for a movie. So you just, I mean, I am the person separately, and I think that would still have a place even if wave becomes commonplace.
I see what you mean. There's this whole spectrum of seriousness of the message, leading all the way from IM, where probably the things we are discussing is not that serious, all the way to email, where maybe we spend a lot of time before we reply or compose an email. And what you're saying is that Wave falls somewhere in the middle, is it?
If you're talking about seriousness scale, you should think about Twitter first. So Twitter is the least serious, and then email.
Okay. So Anshul, are you saying that this falls somewhere in the middle? It is not as serious as email because, but it's not.
No,
as,
I'm saying actually. I'm saying that like you can have the seriousness scale. That's the first comment that I made. That the seriousness scale really depends on the user. So I have no doubt that people will be using this like Twitter or like Facebook, throwing sheep at each other and so on, and that's fine. But where I really see the value of something like Wave is in collaboration, right? And true collaboration is not really possible without. So, for example, all the examples that you saw on the video, for example, were things like, okay, we are working on a project, we have a design document. Okay, even if we are going for a movie, it's like only that movie, and we have a poll, and we have everyone just talking about which movie to go to, and so on, right? So it's structured conversation, it's a focused conversation, and I think that is where something like Wave becomes more productive. So what I'm saying is you do need to have an avenue where you have not so focused, I wouldn't say serious, I mean, you can still be serious, right? But not so focused conversation that you don't need to have this whole hoopla around. So IM is good because it's just a text. It's very simple in my head. It's not something as complex.
I'll just make one more point here. I agree with Anshul in the sense that with the hoopla thing and all, but even with that, I mean, you can say that this wave is only about this topic and you will only talk about this topic, but it's just the structure of messages, because IMs are usually very short. So the only IAMs which should actually be represented in the Wave are IAMs which you want to be logged for some reason. You don't just want to have random IAM, because IAMs are like very
Yeah,
small,
precisely.
very small things which you want to ask and you want a response to it. You don't want that to be recorded. You want something of value to be recorded so that when people are looking at it, it actually makes sense to other people.
But if you look at Google Chat and Gmail integration, you can chat all you want, but it's also archived within Gmail and it's searchable within Gmail, but it doesn't crowd your email experience. So if you think about replicating that UI characteristic into Google Wave, because remember Google Wave is two things. It's both the client interface that you saw in the demo and the protocol. So there's nothing preventing you from having an IAM client just like your existing IAM client, but speaking Wave protocol in the backend so that everything is still available online, everything is still a single copy. And if you wanted, you could take that conversation and make a structured Wave out of it.
So Deepak, the difference
Great.
in what you're saying and what Wave is that I am when I'm emailing, but it's not tied to a particular email, right?
Yeah,
So I
exactly.
mean, you're perfectly right in the sense that there's nothing wrong with having talking over IM as we do right now over the Wave protocol, but then that's nothing new. I mean, that's like just saying using a different protocol for exactly the same user
Okay, Anshul,
interaction.
I think I got what you meant. What is that? Which is that in Twitter and in IM and mediums like that, there is no specific topic to which these messages are tied. The conversations that we are carrying on, it's not tied to any specific message or a topic. Whereas in email, it's very tightly tied to that particular email thread, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Mind if I jump in? So from my perspective, looks like a big case of forward all that will happen again. So being there on emails, forward all or reply all, and this is what Wave could end up being. Given that there's a close plugin structure enabled, people throwing sheep wouldn't be a far distant reality. It would come up pretty soon. And most importantly, I still don't see the problem that it is trying to solve. It is still an multimedia email messaging which is not linear, which could even cause problems rather than find a solution for someone.
Actually,
So Hitesh, can you tell us what kind of a problem could happen?
Since it is not linear and if you are not paying attention, you might miss out a few updates. But more importantly, bottom line is what is the problem it is trying to solve? Collaboration is definitely one, but collaboration in what context? Who needs collaboration? Not the people who are using IMs or emails in normal work environment, in normal home environment. Work environments, Wave wouldn't enter at least for the next 2-3 years. And so, yeah, setting up a podcast might be a good example, but we just managed it. So why do you need it?
Actually, I would like to just point out here is that problems exist, and what people come up with are better solutions to problems which can already be solved by doing more legwork. So it's not like it's trying to solve something which is not totally solvable. But I think what the intent is that it's easier to do it if you have everything at the same place. If you have a project room in which you have all this information together, I can see the benefit of this thing in the sense that there are, instead of having a mailing list, you can have something like this in which all
So
the mails.
I'll give a very simple example. So some people came in late when we were chatting about how the podcast would go before starting the podcast. Some people came in late, and we essentially had to repeat information. Now, if we had something like Wave, and what we were discussing was a Wave and not and essentially Skype IM, that whole conversation would have been saved even for the person who joined in, and he would have been able to see exactly what happened in the order in which it happened. So that kind of a thing is useful. And while I completely agree with you, and that was my first thought as well, that okay, here come more electric sheep. But the thing is, like I said, you can restrict this. Not only so the problem with Facebook to me is, okay, I can't. I mean, if I know somebody even reasonably well, I can't very well not add them to my Facebook. I will add them to my Facebook, and then suddenly I'm inundated with every poke and every wall-to-wall writing. But the good thing about Wave is we can restrict one particular wave can be restricted to one topic, one focus, and one restricted set of people. Even if there are far more people on your contacts, and if you're getting waves with electric sheep, you can just, I assume, you will be able to set up a filter which says, okay, if this is and like Gmail in its conversations already has a very nice feature which is not really advertised. It's called the mute feature. You can mute a conversation and say that, okay, this is going out of control. This is 50 conversations about, who hates which movie, and I just don't want to get it anymore. So let it come to my inbox, but please don't show it to me.
That's exactly my point. So at a very high level, a wave is a email chain or a conversation over emails. And my biggest problem with that is reply alls when I don't want to see a reply. So even a conversation has different audience level requirement. I'm not sure one wave can address that this part of the conversation is to be captured between me and my boss, for instance, looking at a work setting, and this has to be addressed to me and my team, and this has to be addressed to the whole project. So that is still the reply all problem that I have, which I think would only get exaggerated with this.
Oh, I thought that it will be more like a replacement for a wiki with respect to a project, with the added benefit that you can add different kinds of media and you can access it in different places. You should definitely not have one-to personal communications in a wave. What you want is broadcast messages, so that if people are interested, they can go and check it up, and if they are not, they can just
No, Amit, you
ignore
can
it.
have, in the demos they show collaboration with a lot of people, but you can just have it with one person. Yeah, that's not a limiting factor.
So
Actually,
is that also put as part of the whole, I'm sorry, as part of the whole wave, or is it like a personal thing which is not shown in the wave itself
No,
to other people?
Wave is nothing but this new name for this feature-filled email from Google. That's it.
Yeah, so a wave can very well be between. So they want Wave to replace email, and I think I agree with Hitesh in the sense that it's not going to replace email, and Amit's opinion is right that it is more of an advanced wiki sort of a thing, and you don't want to get too personal with it, but it's about use and abuse. So the other thing, the other few things that I thought were very interesting from the video, Amit, you may not have caught it, Jaga, but the thing is, so I really was amused by the whole spell checker system, but I think it's like overkill. But it's interesting to see what they might have behind that. But the other thing was that yes, this live communication algorithm and protocol would be very, very interesting. Anybody want to speculate as to what that could be?
Oh, before people speculate into that, can please someone recap it in very short?
So basically, Jaga, the idea is that whatever I am doing instantly goes across. So there's no send button, so to speak, unless you actually want to block your input, which you can do. But there's no send button. As I'm typing something, everybody else will get to see it. So it's like live email in that sense. And if there are 5 people typing, there are 5 carrots that are moving in 5 places where text is being typed in, and people can see that live. So they've worked obviously pretty hard on that to have that protocol firstly, and then to actually implement it. We still don't know how good it works, because of course what we saw in the demo was a controlled environment. We have no idea whether if people are in 7 different places, will that work or won't that work. And we also don't know, for example, like Gmail can go offline, Docs can go offline. But if Wave goes offline, then there's the whole question of branching, right? Because people can actually edit these messages. You can't just add on to them, but you can edit them. So what happens if somebody is offline and editing a lot of stuff, and then they come online and everything has changed? They did talk about they would make it like a version control system, but I think that's going to be really hard.
Actually, that was the first feature which I thought that if I'm going to use Wave, I'm going to turn it off. It looks like too much action going on that Wave for me.
I completely agree with you.
No,
I
but
think it would also be selective, right? If you're in IM mode, so to say, then you would want the live update thing. But if you're in your head, if you're in the email mode, then of course you want to compose your whole paragraph before sending it out.
no, but I just want to ask, why would I want to have it turned on even in the IM mode? I mean, there is a reason there's a send button in which I can like use the backspace key and delete stuff before writing
It's
off.
more, Jaga, it's more to make the conversation more immediate, more personal, in the sense that, let's say I'm typing out a full sentence only to find out that you have been typing the whole sentence addressing my concern already. So as you're typing, I can already see that what you're going to say, right? It's just like person talking to each other in reality.
So
So it's
let's
like,
just remember for once that this is nothing new. I mean, ICQ had this way back when, right? And I never liked it, very frankly, because I want to be able to type something and then, okay,
Wait,
are we getting
ICQ
cut
had
off?
it? I thought ICQ had that synchronous send thing, so you couldn't send it again till the message got delivered.
No, no. So ICQ had a mode where you could talk in which you could talk and whatever you were typing would be sent live to the other user, basically. And I mean, this was not the instant message. This was not the flower that you sent and somebody received, but you could open up a chat mode, and the chat mode was effectively live chat.
Oh, okay. I never tried that. But
yeah.
interesting.
Okay, what did you guys think about how Wave might replace how we were doing conversations using a mailing list? I felt that's where I felt the strongest connect with Wave. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, actually, Wave shines the most, I think, when you think of any collaboration context. So if it's just one-on-one communication, there's not much value add. But any collaboration, whether it's a wiki-style collaboration or the examples they gave of group photo albums, anywhere where you have, four or five persons collaborating on something, I think it'll shine.
There's also the question of, so when they were talking about group photo albums, and again, what struck me was that, do you really want all of this? I mean, it's not really that. So, for example, let's say group photo album, everybody went for a trip, and everybody's mailing back photos. I mean, most people would just mail back links. I mean, I really can't see. I mean, okay, they had one person had 6 photos, the other person had 3 photos. When I go on a trip, or when any of us goes on a trip, we have like 80 photos or something, and that's not. I mean, that's not something you want inside a Wave. What you want inside a Wave is just a link, so which is pretty much doable over email anyway.
Yeah, I also felt that, and I felt that several parts of the keynote, they felt like being an Apple keynote where the wow of the product before is just carrying on when they're showing all these examples where you're made to believe that okay, this is a good thing, this is what we'll be doing in the future when we're using this product and so on. It felt almost like Apple keynote.
Yeah, I completely
Exactly
agree with
my
that.
point. What is the problem they're trying to address? But coming back to the collaboration space as well as the instant type, it's what we can do on Google Docs, for instance, right now, that each of one is editing it real time. Everyone sees what the updates are. Add photos to it. Which is similar to what Wave is trying to do. So Wave is integrating Google Docs with real-time chat, with email threaded conversations that they have, and they mash it up, integrate it real nice, make it look real nice, and that's the
Oh
product
yeah,
for you.
Wave definitely
Yeah,
looks much more
I agree.
noisier than Google Docs to me. So I don't know how it's going to pan out.
Yeah, and very frankly, the other thing that they showed, the thing about Bugzilla and making stuff. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not gonna go and. I mean, if any serious developer should not be discussing bugs over Wave and filing bugs over Wave. I mean, I don't think that's a very good idea, because it's just, again, it's not a very formal. I mean, although I mean, it's true that it does get moved and reflected in the whole formal environment, but I think, yeah, there's just too much uh, things that you can do. So, for example, what if somebody adds a photo and somebody, I mean, that's the thing. A wave is basically an invitation to say whatever you like at that point of time and not think about it too much, right? And you don't want to use it for something that is so serious as filing a bug and talking about a bug.
That's where the interesting things probably begin. Two things. Maybe a user would be more easier for a user to file a bug over Wave, and given it's pluggable, maybe we can plug a decent Bugzilla at the end of it, which listens to the waves, updates the bugs, and the developer looks at
No,
them.
but
The seriousness factor is what I'm more concerned about. Is do people treat it as emails, People treat it as instant messages? Do people really treat it as a wiki page which lasts forever and which has to be probably given the most seriousness? That's the spectrum, and how is it really used? And given the multiple uses possible, would a person be able to switch a context? Okay, this is my bug reporting wave for feature X, and should I stick to it, or do I also add on bugs I found in feature Y of app Z, or this is the general chat room we have for our group? So this is the context which would probably get more difficult.
I think the way Wave should ideally be used is that you start off with having general discussion over email, and if you see the person online, you can have a chat with him. But in the end, you should always summarize it and leave it as a more lasting contribution, like a wiki kind of thing in the end, so as to summarize it for the next level of communication or discussion to go on, so that there is like people don't have to look at the various, so you can have like different views of this thing. But I don't know if they will actually do it or not.
Oh, they've
Because
already done that, Jaga. They showed off. They have this concept of robots which watch what you're doing, and they can pick that up and do stuff with it. So one of the stuff they showed off was that a wave can be published over to something that is very similar to a blog. Okay, and so that would be your wiki page that stays on forever. And in fact, there's a two-way communication between them. So anybody who comments on that blog, the comment gets gets copied over to the wave, and whenever the wave is extended, the blog post is extended.
Then I think that's like the exact thing which I want, right? So people, depending on what kind of communication they want, they can have that kind of communication. So people who are in the loop.
The question that is happening here, the same kind of a robot was there for example, if you write a wave and then say bug 1 2 3 4 5 in product X, another robot would take that up and actually file a bug for you in its filing system. Okay, so you would actually get a Bugzilla bug in there if it was Bugzilla there. I think they showed off Google issue tracker, but yeah, it's a very similar principle. What we're discussing is does that make sense? I mean, and to me it doesn't, because there are just too many possibilities over a wave, and it's not formal enough to. I mean, I don't know.
Isn't it like depending on the person? The person can actually define the level of formality at which he wants to interact with other people. So
but
if
that's
you want
true. Isn't that true also for our existing communication systems? Like you and I would exchange emails with proper grammar and everything. But if you look at kids today, they would be exchanging emails as though they were text messages. So it's how people start using this kind of technology that would define whether it's a serious interaction or a frivolous interaction.
Precisely, and that
so wave by itself is not enabling or disabling any of these modes. I think it's a blank canvas for users to adapt and use as they wish. I mean, for me, I would replace most of my Facebook work with Google Wave because it's a much more focused social network, so to say. I could create a wave just with those people who are actually related to the event that happened, unlike Facebook where I'm sharing something as it's spam to 400 odd people. So it's a use case thing, which
no, but I think that I agree with you. But what I think is, because there are robots involved, what the robots can do is they can change the level of formalism or formality that is involved in the communication. So I can just like talk to Anshul on IM about something, and a robot can then just make a mail kind of thing which is slightly more formal. And so if you are not that frequent, or if you are not that much in the loop, you can just take a look at that mail instead of taking a look at the conversation. Or if you are even less in the loop, you can actually take a look at the wiki page, which happens after like a week of work going on or something like that. And that, I think, is like the strongest point in the wave.
Amit, at a very basic level, they have actually built this into the wave system itself at a basic level. So if you are evolving a wave, you are editing the wave, you are adding your replies back and forth, all of that. But end of the day, when you can basically take that wave and export the result of that wave as a new wave without this history behind the edits. So what you could do is, so you and I are having this conversation, and when we are done with the conversation and when we have refined the wave to the final level, we export it and then add our project manager to that. So that, I guess that's the use case you're talking about.
Yeah. And I think that is like currently very difficult to do with other mediums because I'll have to do slightly more work. I mean, it is possible, but it's slightly more work, and this is just providing me one platform where I can do all that work.
Precisely.
I think though the one feature that Wave has, which I have been looking for in email for so long, is what they said, the inline replies. I mean, that is so useful in emails, and right now we get around it by switching colors and by indenting and all that kind of stuff, which I really hate. I mean, if they would just have that somehow incorporated into email, but that's the thing. I mean, that's what struck home, that email is what we've been using for the past 30 years, and it hasn't changed. And you really need fundamental change to support something as small as this. And yeah, I mean, I think that kind of a thing would be good to have, but it's just that, yeah, whether it's worth all the other things.
Anshul, even I have the same emotions. The moment I saw them replying inline, I thought, okay, here's finally some solution to all this quoting and the quote characters and display, the whole thing. Yeah.
I swear.
Yeah, someone's tweet summarized it, yay, no more top post flame wars.
Yeah.
Okay, they showed this in the demo video. They also showed this how they can deploy Wave for companies or as a separate identity away from Google, using this example of some Acme Tech and then this Ini Tech and all that. What do you guys feel? Google is getting too ahead of its game or something here, because they've not yet released the beta version and they're already showing some way of incorporating Wave into corporations and all that, right? What do you guys feel?
Oh no, they're not getting ahead of themselves. They have to do this. I mean, they absolutely have to. So they are looking at something that will replace email, right? So from the very beginning, they have to make it clear that this is open to anyone and everyone. Otherwise, it becomes a proprietary something that will just stay within the Google ecosystem, and people will not go to it for that reason.
I agree with Anshul, but I don't think they're trying to replace email. The real use case in enterprise is replace SharePoint. And again, call me what you want, but again, it's more like, are they trying to attack all the cash cows from Microsoft?
No, that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. I mean, they're not trying to replace email. It's on its own. But so, for example, I don't see. So if this product is all that it is, right? I mean, email just doesn't make sense anymore, because this is a superset of email, right? You can just have. In fact, the basic nature of it is email. So you see some text or a piece of message. You see a message from somebody, and you reply to that message. What is possible on top of that is editing the original message, replying in line, and all these things, adding new people. So, yeah, I mean, I think, to get I don't know how they plan to monetize it, but they are trying to introduce a protocol by which people communicate, sort of, right? They're basically trying to replace I don't know what is it that rules over email, MIME types and SMTP or whatever. Right, they're trying to replace that, and they have to, in order to do that, in order to have any sort of credibility and at what they're trying to achieve, they have to make sure it's open. In fact, if you see, the Wave protocol was not on Google. It was waveprotocol.org, which means it's a not-profit. It's what it would be for a protocol that was intended like TCP/IP or like SMTP, which is intended to be accepted by everyone. So they eventually want everyone to accept a Wave protocol incoming. So, for example, they probably want, like, let's say if you work at a big corporation, let's say if you work at Microsoft, I, as somebody from Google, could send you a Wave, and Microsoft would at least be able to interpret that and show it to you in some form or the other.
Okay, that gives me.
That's precisely my point. Just
Yeah.
can I finish? Yeah, that's precisely my point, that it is still Google only unless everyone picks it up, which probably Microsoft will never do. Wave is still bound to a small group of Wave users, so it can't replace email, because email is having the largest circulation or accepted base, if you may. So you can't replace email. But whereas SharePoint is enterprise only, it's used within the company. So if you want to migrate from SharePoint to Wave, all your users can easily be migrated, and there you have it. Monetization is also straightforward in this case, as in either you give them a this Google app sort of a thing, you just plug and play, or you give a hosted version, and enterprise could work with either of them. It probably is just another add-on to the Google apps, if you may.
Yeah, I think definitely the monetization for them is to have Wave instances operated by them for individual companies, which is their whole idea with Google App Engine, hosted Gmail, hosted Docs. So that's a definite monetization stream for them. But it would still need to be an open protocol, because before they can get to the stage where companies accept and embrace Wave, they would want actual people to be using it. And this has to be more of a case of people loving this in their personal life and then asking their IT people, why can't we get this? I mean, of course, this won't happen at multi-thousand people companies, but at least companies of the size of 50 to 100 people, it is more easy for them to move off email to this, assuming it takes off.
Yeah, I agree with this scenario, and that it's more useful and it's more likely to succeed in a corporate environment. And also among early adopters, like I could very well imagine all the people in this chat window to have actually used Wave for setting this thing up and then pushing off. But yeah.
So the other thing is, when I was seeing the video, so the thing is, there's only so many modes of communication that we can handle. Okay, and that is why, for example, I stay off Twitter and I stay off things like Facebook for the most part, because I don't want to have 10 places in which I go and check who wants to communicate with me, right? So if Wave, in fact, just comes in and is there, so I have to check my Wave as well as my email. That makes it a bit of a problem. I mean, because there's so much attention that is getting diverted from one to the other, and again you have disparate sources of information. So I think the longer term vision for this has got to be that, and that's what it seems to me from Google side, that yeah, okay, that this can be one place where you integrate everything. So for example, you can access your Twitter from it if you wanted to, and I'm pretty sure you can uh, use, I mean, if they find a way to integrate Gmail into it so that I don't have to go to a separate inbox and a separate Wave inbox, that will be really
I'm
good.
sure they're going to integrate Gmail into it. That's for sure. Yeah.
Let's hope so.
I'm also sure they're going to integrate Google Voice, so you'll be able to read your SMSs and all that.
Right.
Wait, does that thing work over Linux right now? Or is it still Windows only?
It's completely browser based. That's one of the things that they kept highlighting, that this is HTML5, this is so powerful that it's all working in their browser. And they showed it off in Google Chrome, they showed it off in Safari on
Having
Mac,
said that, Chrome doesn't work on
Yes,
Linux.
yes, exactly what I was going to say.
and on Firefox 3.5, please.
Yeah, but was it all running on Windows?
Yeah, I didn't see
One
Linux
was
anywhere
on
there
Mac
in the demo.
Yeah, it was Windows and Mac.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
I mean, come
yeah.
on, they had to plug it into a projector. Do you really want Linux there?
Of course. Hey, come
Yes.
on. Now it's like as simple as F and F7.
Did anyone notice the interesting thing they did with the video? They had 3 different video sources being mixed together,
Yeah.
and they had something else managing, like a window manager on top of
Yeah,
those
yeah, yeah.
displays.
It was mixing up the boxes, one next to the other, and so on. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Oh, I thought.
Earlier, I thought they were just using virtual machines, but then it's coming off 2 different laptops. So
I thought there was some people at the behind doing all the switching or something.
yeah, I think there was a crew which was actually managing this top level window management.
So the next thing that I'd want to really talk about is performance. So this has huge implications for performance. So if you're comparing this to email, and if the traffic for Wave gets anywhere even remotely, even let's say 1% or 2% to that of email, it's going to be a huge load, right? Because you have email doesn't have to be immediate, right? It's not real time. This is suddenly real time traffic. And it's not very big. I mean, it's still text based, but it's wrapped around XML. I guess that can be compressed. But anybody have any guesses as to whether the tube, so to speak, can handle this kind of a thing?
Wait, why is it so heavy? Isn't it just like I am on steroids?
Yeah, so it might have some real-time
It
constraints.
is not. It will have. It is. IAM does not really have real-time constraints in the sense that there's no time, for example. So here, if I have 5 people editing a wave, it has to come, and again, a wave can be uh, I mean, I imagine it can have dozens, hundreds of people in it, right? So then your complexity becomes very rapidly O(n) squared, because you have to, everyone's update has to be sent across to everyone else in real time.
Yeah, Anshul, that's a good observation
Yeah.
Anshul,
because this
I,
seems to be a server
I
architecture,
think it
right?
will all be. I think it will all be centralized. Everyone will be communicating to a server and getting the updates from everyone else.
Even so, I mean, actually that is the problem. It is centralized. If it were sort of peer to peer, it would probably be a bit easier. But the problem is that can the central server handle so much? Because, for example, in the case of email or even in the case of IM, it's not really real time. I send it to a router. The router will decide when it sends it, right? And there's no. I mean, the idea is to send it as soon as possible, but there's no real time constraint in it.
I am pretty sure this is not that they are advertising it to be. I mean, come on.
Anshul,
It
does the
will have
protocol
the.
actually mandate real-time delivery? Because
I'm not sure.
if the protocol does not mandate real-time delivery, then it's up to the service provider to decide
Fair
whether
enough.
they can provide it or not. So then that becomes a differentiating factor. Google says that our servers can handle the real-time load, so use our service. Whereas,
Right.
Yahoo says we can't do it. Okay, maybe Yahoo is a bad example, but some company sysadmin staff says, okay, we can't handle the real-time load. We are going to operate the service in delayed mode. So it's a
Yeah, that makes
deployment time
sense.
question.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, from the looks of it, it looked like they prefer real time, but it looks like most probably it'll be best effort real time or whatever. That's it.
So the problem I have again is the fact that there are versions. So let's say if it is not real time, right? I make an edit to a page, you make an edit to a page. Whose edit gets chosen,
Isn't that done at the server?
right?
Yeah.
The version that is chosen, the decision making is made at the server.
Yes, but how? But then it's a matter of how it is chosen, right? There has to be a fixed protocol for it, in the sense that, I mean,
I,
this is why you have conflicts, right? In source
yeah.
control systems.
I think it will just flag conflicts if both people are editing the
So
same
what? Now
paragraph.
you need a moderator in a Wave conversation to decide to resolve conflicts, and they have to say, whatever, Wave resolved.
Yeah.
I think the
I
reason
vote
for
for that.
sending keystrokes real time is probably to avoid these conflicts. So it's a cheap workaround to having a conflict management
Wow,
system
that's
there.
nice. Yeah, maybe yeah.
Or maybe a really expensive workaround considering what they have to pull off to give real-time updates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
Actually,
should be
Google
interesting to see.
Google has actually open sourced its diffing over network algorithm. You can go search on Google code for that project, and that's the same algorithm they use behind the Google Docs syncing, and I'm assuming also for the Wave syncing.
Right. Okay. That'll be interesting to check out how they work it.
And I think some of the open source, text editors, the distributed text editors, they seem to be picking up that protocol or
Right.
that implementation.
Yeah, because I think this gives rise to a whole. I mean, this is a whole new thing. I mean, it's probably on the order of maybe not big table, but the other sort of slightly minor things that Google has been doing. And yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how they handle it, because they really can't afford to have a moderator, right? This is something that is consumer level. People are not going to understand the underlying protocols and algorithms behind it. They just want to use it. So what happens in the case of a delayed time frame?
Yeah.
But
And
okay.
forget about users, even as a developer,
Yeah, you don't want to
as a
bother about
developer,
this.
I could assume that there's a really great syncing algorithm and syncing infrastructure available, then what kind of services can I build on top of it? Forget the Wave and all that, just the Wave protocol and that there's an implementation available for me to
Exactly.
use. So I think if it takes off, there could be, which is the reason I guess they announced it at Google I/O. They want developers to fiddle around, build services.
Right.
No, but I'm sorry. I'm still hung up on the previous conflict thing. Why is it not okay just to show the two edits side by side?
Wouldn't that be a very bad user experience to show up for every single, every single edit? If two people are editing the document at the same time and you have to show them, and then someone has to decide, merge. things like that. It'll be...
No. I'm not saying that anyone has to decide or merge. I'm just saying that these are the two different things which people are saying about the same thing. I mean,
No,
that's there because people are actually saying the two things.
Jaka, the problem is they are editing, right? So you'll have to say, for example, if you change the sentence in one way and I change the sentence in another way, then you have to find a way to show that, okay, this is actually one sentence, but there are these two versions of the same sentence, which quickly gets very ugly, right? If that happens for multiple points along your message, that becomes pretty ugly. So I think they've taken on quite a task by saying that messages will be editable. So it's fine. That's why I said it's fine to have replies. I mean, so anything that you add on is fine. But uh, if you are doing real time edits, then you have conflicts. I think you will have conflicts even in real time. And like Hitesh said, I mean, you can get around that by just sending keystrokes. But what happens in case the real time constraint is not enforced?
Okay.
It's really a very good sort of algorithmic thing to think about, and yeah, I should probably go and check out what they've actually done
That
and how it
syncing
works.
thing, is it? Yeah.
Yeah. I should figure. We should go and check it out sometime.
Okay, ignoring all of what Wave is about, do you think it is practically possible today to invent a new internet standard protocol and get it as widely adopted as email and news groups, all of these?
I think it's perfectly possible to invent it. Getting it adopted is a whole different story because people are so sort of, I don't know, anal these days. I mean, it's because the thing is, so nobody remembers. I mean, yes, it's listed down somewhere who invented TCP/IP, who invented SMTP, but in those days nobody cared. People were very happy to accept any new standard that came along and try it out, and it basically kind of evolved. Today the problem is, as somebody pointed out, that because Google made this, Microsoft is probably not going to accept it because that will be a sort of a ego issue. I mean, it will be like accepting tentatively that subtly that, yeah, okay, Google is better than us, and so we're using their platform. So same thing, for example, social networks. I mean, Google has tried with open social, and it's fine as a protocol, it's fine, but it doesn't work. Nobody wants to take it up.
And what we are forgetting here, it's not a protocol in the true sense of the word. It's over HTML, over HTTP. So we are not really creating a new protocol there. It's not something on the internet. It's something on the HTTP communication protocol out there.
I'm not really sure it's over HTTP because they mentioned in the video that somebody has some port open. So it may be a completely different thing. But they did say XML, so I guess it makes sense to have it over HTTP rather than anything else.
But in any case, it's a standard for a new internet system, right? So even in that sense, I mean, I'm racking my brain, and the only example I can come up of something new that got wide adoption is BitTorrent.
So this is not really BitTorrent. This is more like REST or SOAP. I mean, a standardized version of REST and SOAP, maybe with real-time constraints built in.
No, there is an implementation over here, right? REST and SOAP is just...
No, so that's what they said, right? They were very clear that the implementation is their own. I mean, people are free to implement it their way.
Yeah.
No, I think that if it's actually solved the problem and if their implementation is good enough and some influential people can pick it up, it will take off in some time. I'm just thinking about not REST SOAP or anything else. I'm just thinking about Twitter. It's a completely new way of microblogging, of interacting with people, and it has taken off. I mean,
yeah, but then again, Twitter is not a standard, right? There are not multiple federated Twitter services. Identica is not taking off, which is the distributed Twitter. So that's my point. Can a new internet standard actually gain traction in today's environment?
No, but Google doesn't care really that much about the standard, right? It cares more about this implementation of that standard or their implementation.
That's true, because
public
it's
motive
always
seems
about
to be...
part.
No, I think you guys are looking at it more from
Unless,
the sense of a developer. So there's a difference between the standard and the product, right? So Twitter has been a huge success based on the product. We have no idea what they're doing below, right? Whatever standards or protocols or whatever they're using.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
actually talking about the application itself. I was talking about the implementation that if it became popular, then over time, eventually everyone will accept it. Let's just take into account that the latest version of Windows 7, it supports Blu-ray writing internally or natively, or was that in the Vista SP2? I
No, it
forget.
does. I think it supports Blu-ray. I mean, but yeah,
Yeah,
what's your point?
my point is that Microsoft supported HD DVDs. It did not come up with a Blu-ray player. It did not have Blu-ray player or Blu-ray devices even in
Yes,
Xbox
but that's
360.
because Microsoft doesn't really have an issue with Toshiba and Sony that much as it will have with Google, right? And Blu-ray is just one small part of everything. If this catches off, it's like everybody will be talking about. So you realize it's not Wave, it's Google Wave, right? So if you're receiving a Google Wave in your Outlook, that harms Microsoft.
Yeah, but if Google Wave becomes very popular, then not having it in their Outlook will also harm Microsoft, and I am saying it will harm Microsoft
So there
more.
are two versions of popular, right? That's what Deepak is trying to get at. One version of popular is like Google Docs is popular. Yes, it's very popular, and Office is, Microsoft Office is scrambling to try and get up their live Office thingy, and in a response to that, right? So Google Wave can become very popular that way, but can it be popular as a federated service? So basically, can the Wave make it out of Google, right? So will Yahoo, for example, someday say, okay, fine, if somebody sends a Google Wave to somebody at Yahoo Mail, we will show it in a particular format and we will allow you to interact with it that way. That is the biggie. I mean, yeah, Google Wave could become very popular and it'll become another Twitter, another Facebook, and that's good. I mean, that's very good for Google. They'll be able to monetize it and get all the credits, but that's really not a big leap, so to speak.
No, but won't like other services actually cater to it so as just to prevent people from going all the way to Google for it?
No, so they might, for example, Yahoo might have its own version of the Wave, right? Yahoo might have its own version of collaborated documents, and all of them are very close to doing this. Like Hitesh said, we already do have real-time syncing in Google Docs, and we do these things all the time. And so the Wave, if you really see what it is, fine. I mean, you add photos, add text messages, add inline replies. It's not that hard to do. The question is, will it become a standard? Like, will it be able to interoperate? So like, for example, instant messaging, right, has still not been, I mean, we've just about started having MSN contacts being added to Yahoo contacts and so on. But for a very long time, you had to be within an ecosystem. So you have to be on Google Talk to chat with somebody on Google Talk. It's not as interoperable as email, which is why email is so popular. So the idea is, will this replace email in that sense? And in my opinion, it's very hard.
Very interesting. If it were to replace email, how would you answer a problem with spam, which is real time now?
You bet.
I'm sorry, what's the problem?
Real-time spam.
Real time spam.
Coming soon in Google Wave.
Okay, I think the how it will answer spam is very simple actually. Google Wave, you have to have somebody on your. So actually this was never clear to me. Do you have to have some? Can you just send a wave to anybody? Or
if it is interoperable, that is the point.
That is the eventual point, yes. But right now, in the current implementation, I think I saw something very similar to a contact list.
Yeah, they did send a mail across from Google Wave to Acme Wave, right?
Acme Wave, yes, but there also
So
the Acme people were there in their contact list.
Okay.
Yeah, I can add you to my contact list and start spamming you.
Yeah, that's true. Well, real-time spam should be fun. I can imagine the next Google I/O demo. Okay, new spam filter for Google Wave. Okay, so it's like NIGERI, and the moment somebody says A, it goes into spam because it's from Nigeria.
and then we'll have the A and the backspace A.
Yeah,
and
A and the backspace, and spam, not spam, and that will be awesome. And there'll be new bots written just on that basis to go in A and backspace all the time.
I think the bot will be called Spammy.
Of course, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so yeah, that should be fun. Yeah. But
So,
we are a bit far off from seeing how spam. Let's see if this thing actually takes off first.
yeah, I think I think let's see if one of us can get a developer access first before waiting for the full product rollout.
Yep.
So how do you go about doing that?
To pull your
You can sign
contacts,
up.
I guess.
Wave.google.com, sign up first, and then try to pull your contacts.
So does anyone have any contacts?
Nope.
Okay.
Let me see. So, to wrap up, at least on the Wave thing, people are excited, people are skeptical, people want it to take off, people are worried it'll take off. I guess we can just wait for another 6 months before making a call on this. Anyone else wants to add on to that? Okay, so I think we are almost to our 1 hour predicted time for the podcast. We plan to put this up at technocast.blogspot.com, and once our production manager manages to clean up the audio and upload it, so hopefully people will be able to download it over there.
There is a production manager.
I think
guessing that's Ashwin.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we'll nominate Ashwin as the production manager.
I'll see how it goes.
So
Okay.
thanks everyone for joining.
Can I just make one small comment here?
Sure.
I think all the people here are C++ programmers because I noticed that this is podcast 0.
Even Java has
Me
zero
also.
indexing, you know.
Yeah, but C is like the old version, so everything else is
Okay.
derived from C. But yeah.
But most programmers start with 0.
I think we are all
Yeah.
one-Neumann machine programmers.
So should
Yeah,
we just call it podcast Hello World?
Visual Basic people are not
Oh
programmers.
man.
How about MATLAB?
You're gonna
people?
get flamed.
MATLAB people are scientists, not programmers.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Fair enough.
We just call it podcast Hello World.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay, I would go for that one now.
Okay, so we shall meet up again probably in another month.
Yeah.
And thanks everyone for joining. Next time, hopefully, we'll have some sponsors and free drinks.